I think I'm recording now. I had another story I hadn't added to my list here, but I saved a man's life one time. Actually, definitely saved his life. I'm coming home from Rhode Island in the Navy in the 50s, probably 55, 56. I'm on the Pennsylvania Turnpike and I come up on this bad accident. I was headed west on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and on the east side, this semi had evidently just run off the road, run directly into a bank, and just crushed the nose. And the load come forward and crushed the back, and the cab was just squished from front and back. And this little driver he never said a word, but he was conscious and looking at us. The steering wheel ended up straight up and down. He'd been hit so hard from the front. And the steering column was pressed against his chest. The steering wheel was actually above his head. And he was squished from the back. The Turnpike Cruiser Police had done been there, and he was white. They'd covered every inch of him with that powdered fire extinguisher until they didn't have any more left. The police had used everything they had. There was still a small fire down by his ankle, still burning, and they couldn't get him out. About 5 of us guys got a hold of the steering wheel and all pulled, and we couldn't budge that steering column. It was just crushed up against his chest. State trooper done something I never thought I'd ever see. He ordered all of us away. He said, the truck's fixing to blow up. There's nothing we can do for this man. And he took all of us, so there must have been 12, 15 of us there. Took us all across the lane of traffic over into the grass, and was just going to let the truck burn up and put the man in it. Nothing else. Nobody was left. A trucker had pulled up behind, and he said, you want me to help me get that man out of there? I said, you darn right. I was about 19 years old. He backed his semi up right against that wreck, and he didn't have any chains to it, but he had some chains that you put on the tires for wintertime, snow chains. And he gave me a set of them, and I wrapped one around the steering wheel and one around his back bumper on that trailer. There wasn't any hooks. I could just tie a knot in that chain, and I could just barely stick my head out the edge of his semi where he could see me in his mirrors. And when I give him a go-ahead, he pulled away real slow, and that steering wheel just bent right on over, pulled it off of that man. Little guy, he wasn't as big as a jockey. I bet he didn't weigh 130 pounds. Little tiny guy. And while I held the steering wheel off of him, he jumped out. I bet he had jumped 4 feet down to the ground. He jumped down on the ground and rolled over. And then I looked out and gave a nod to the driver, and I let go, and that semi lounged forward, and that steering wheel flopped back, and this little man was laying on the ground. Then the state police, or Turnpike Cruiser, he came across the street and wrapped the guy up in a blanket and picked him up. And I got in my car and drove off. That little man never knew who saved his life. But me and the truck driver saved his life, and if I hadn't been in a hurry to get home, I would have made a report on this Turnpike Cruiser, because this guy, he was going to let him burn up, done ordered everybody away and on the other side of the road to watch the truck finish burning up, because he had no more extinguisher left, and it was still burning under his feet. When I left, the truck was beginning to catch on fire. I guess it probably just burned down. But me and that truck driver saved that guy's life, and that Turnpike Cruiser guy, officer, definitely should have been reported, because he was going to let the guy die. and we saved his life, and I'm glad of that.